Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew Mclain. Usually, this is where I'd say John Bird keeping me out of trouble, but John Bird being a little John Birdie today. The good news is when he gets here, if you're listening to this John Bird, drive a little faster. I have a caramel frappuccino for you, and I have breakfast.
So you got caffeine and food.
Caffeine and food.
He'll be in.
He's the only producer that eats the stuff I bring. I think it might have something to do with the diabetic coma darn near.
No, I've eaten it.
Okay. Well, for our pastry options, I brought 4, so you can most certainly have one.
Ooh.
We have from Hello Bakery, which is right around the corner from my house. We've got an almond. What's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Croissant. And a chocolate croissant, and then we have a blueberry and an apple Danish.
Wow.
So those are the 4 I picked this morning on my way in.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then I brought myself 2 drinks, caffeinated drinks, because
you think you need to get them through that'll get you through the day?
I figure that will get us there.
Okay.
For those of you looking on the live cam, your screen does not need adjustment. I am ridiculously tan. I just got back from 7 days in Arizona.
That would do it.
I was telling Val on the way up that, so it was a whirlwind adventure. We flew into Phoenix. This is me doing my best version of Leland.
Okay.
We flew into Phoenix, and then we did a road trip. So we got in the car, and we drove up to Flagstaff and looked at a few of the Route 66 like images and they have a little museum and they have this really cool thing in Flag where you can drive your car like up to they built in a Route 66, and then right behind you it tells you how many miles to everything else there is that you can get to on Route 66, and it was really cute. It was odd. There was a Chinese family with mask on, and what was happening was you took your turn in your car, and so you'd go around, you kind of park in a horseshoe shape, right? And so there was a line, then you'd drive your car under the little thing so you could get your photo op.
Okay.
But there was a point at which the car behind, basically the car waiting would take the picture of the car going. And then at some point out of nowhere, a group of Chinese visitors showed up and just started taking everybody's picture for them. Now, they didn't have a vehicle. And they were taking their own photos in addition to the photos they were taking using your phone. So somewhere in China right now is photos of everybody who visited Route 66 on that day. And I thought,
including you.
Yeah, including us. And I was thinking, maybe they've got a car. No, there was no car in sight. They were just hanging out in their surgical mask, taking photos for and with everyone. And I was like, life's too short. I'm not going to argue with the little Chinese family that's there.
Does seem odd, though.
It did seem a little odd. It was very odd. And then they had the car that's essentially in the kids' movie Cars across the street. They had a little diner. So if you've ever seen the Cars movie, that was there. So that was cute. So we went to Kingman. Then we went to the Hoover Dam, which I had never been to the Hoover Dam or the Grand Canyon until this trip.
Ah, okay.
And the Hoover Dam is ridiculously low. But it was beautiful. I mean, the whole state of Arizona is beautiful, except there's one stretch.
Except for long stretches of flat, straight roadway.
Well, and during one of those stretches, they put a windmill farm. And
have they now?
And you're like, dadgummit. Like, I guess you get kind of used to it because you're like, oh, this is just a beautiful, beautiful view. And then you're like, wait, what are they
windmill
doing
farm
out there? And so that was a little out of place, I thought.
Well, I've said this story on another show in the fact that I've kind of gone the opposite direction of the way that you went.
Okay.
Because in 2007, my wife and I were one of 4 couples that went out to Las Vegas for a week.
Oh, nice.
And we chose one of the days, rented a van, and for some reason I was the one that ended up being the person that got chosen to drive. We went to the Hoover Dam, and then we were going to go to the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
Well, we went to the went to the Hoover Dam, did all that stuff, came back up the other side, and we're like, okay, we're going to get this thing ready to go. And one of my friends was trying to work the GPS machine that was also came as part of the rental van and having a hard time doing it. And all of a sudden we see this mileage sign that says Grand Canyon, 285 miles.
Oh, no.
And immediately 3 of the 4 girls went, we're going to need a restroom. So we found this little itty bitty town called Dolan Springs. 8 of us drop out of this van and we doubled the population of the town.
Oh, that's
but found a little supermarket that was there and went in there, and they were able to use the restroom. We bought sandwiches, really nice people, some of the best sandwiches you could ever want. And then my friend who was figuring out the GPS found it, and we found that there was a way to go to the northern part of the Grand Canyon
Okay.
where they built the Native Americans built that bridge.
That's where we went.
With the glass.
It's Grand Canyon West.
Yeah, done by the Hualapai residents.
That's exactly where we went.
Yep.
So did you get to do that? And you got to see the Grand Canyon?
Well, we
the
had to pay.
Eagle?
You had to pay extra to get out onto the bridge, so we didn't do that.
Okay. So yes, so there
but
was.
we did. We spent a lot of time out there.
It
was amazing.
Amazing. So you did. That's literally what we did. So
Yeah.
we went. We did the Hoover Dam.
Have they made it easier to get to it?
No.
I mean, we went through this windy little
It was
gravel dirt road.
fantastic. It was no. It was.
I was starting to entertain myself to see if I could actually get the van to, kind of slide around a curve.
No, it was. It was still on a reservation. Still a little crazy. As a matter of fact, so the first day, so we drove up. We did the Hoover Dam, and then we went from the Hoover Dam to Vegas. And part of the reason for this is my son. It's his 10th birthday, and so he got to go. I actually stayed with the little one. Didn't want to go, but there was a show, and it was basically like medieval knights. When growing up in Titusville and Orlando, it was a big deal to go to medieval. So it's basically this live show in front of you where they joust and they ride horses and they fight, and everybody's put on a team and you eat the turkey and chicken legs with your hands. And he loved it.
Okay.
So we did that in Vegas. He did that in Vegas.
What at Excalibur?
Yeah, exactly, at Excalibur. And then the next morning we went up and went to the reservation. Now, a couple crazy things. On the way to the reservation, we stopped at something basically the size of like a Buc-ee's. I mean, it was a big old gas station.
Nice.
So the kids went crazy. You could get license plates. You could get, every personalized keychain and this and that and the other that you wanted. And so the kids get everything. We get in line. They don't take cash. And so the kids had each gotten cash to spend themselves because I didn't want to be the arbiter of what, if you wanted knick-knack or this or that. And so that cash, by the way, came home with us because what happened is that gas station where they got all their little, because it was right on the border. So you could get your Las Vegas stuff and get your Grand Canyon stuff. And so everybody got something. But I had to pay for it. And then you fast forward a little bit, and sure enough, again, we get to the reservation, and at a certain point in the reservation, they stop taking cash because they cash out their drawers early because when management goes home, I guess they just don't want people after hours
they
dealing with the
demand
cash.
all the money go into the safe or something,
Yes.
I guess.
And so sure enough, we get there. The kids want things there. They still have their cash. Those $20 and $30 that $20 and that $30 those kids had, they lasted the whole trip because of this no cash policy. So I was like, no, just keep it. I got it. So they learned no financial planning lessons except you want to go where they're not taking cash. So that was an adventure. But no, I thought it would be miserable. It was over 100 degrees every day. And essentially what we did is when we're not actively doing something, we were just in the pool. Like that was it. Those were the two options.
Yeah.
You're either actively exploring or you're in the pool. I also went to Mass there. I have a dear friend there. We went to Mass, and it was a contemporary Catholic Mass, which I have never experienced in my life. I converted in South Florida, then went to D.C. and joined a church, then joined a church here. And so I've never seen anything but a traditional Catholic Mass. And this was a Catholic Mass with a live band with a drummer and I came from a Pentecostal church, so I'm used to the band being that way, but it was so confusing. They were doing like hand movements when they sang and they were singing the tunes up tempo and it was so that trip was amazing, but a whole experience for everybody.
Very nice.
So yeah. All right. Apryl Marie here filling in for Andrew. Got a lot going on today, to be honest. We're going to keep an eye out on, it looks like the judge has taken the bench for the emergency hearing for Mangione. Let's see if I can say Mangione. There you go. We'll see how many times I can butcher his name today. So we'll keep an eye out on that. And then I've got conversations. We're going to talk to a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution who is going to talk to us about a little bit what's going on there. If you haven't been following my stories over at 1819 News, there's a small faction of them that have decided that men who identify as women should be daughters. And as you can imagine, that's going over not well. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about if you are local, it's that time of year, it's budget time for municipalities. And I'm going to get into some of that, particularly here in Homewood, which is where the office is, right around the corner from the Homewood Police Department. They are cutting $1 million. You heard that correctly. There are plans to cut $1 million from the Homewood Police. They're defunding essentially 6 positions. And I am losing my ever loving mind about that. So we'll talk about that. We'll have on Chris Lane. He's a city councilman here. A lot going on. Well, and if you've been following Leland and the Shelby County saga, we have Finn Church. He's actually coming in studio with me. And so Leland talked to John Rich about Finn's situation, and Finn himself is going to come in here a little later this afternoon. So lots going on today. You guys hold tight. John Bird joining me after this break. Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew. My sidekick is here. John Bird made
I made it.
it. I was like, he's not answering my text. I text Steve. I was like, haven't heard from John Bird. You know, it's one of those mornings. The beginning of school, traffic gets a little thick.
Yeah, I got my
Everybody
my
living.
jacked up knee is
Oh no.
really bad.
Oh,
I fell down steps and
that's no good.
yeah,
That's that's no good.
that. And then I started a new medication, and it makes me oversleep.
Oh, it's all, you know, there's so much to anything health related that goes on. So,
And then you get my age, and then you come in here with this. You
can't.
angel, it's so delicious.
I'm ridiculous, and I feed John Bird as if he were a 5-year-old. That's not mine, by the way. I would never feed my 5-year-old as much sugar as I give John Bird. But I feel like every time I'm here, well, and it's, you know, Steve will occasionally take me up on like a pastry. I usually stop, like I said, Hello Bakery. Love them. They're right there by the saws. And so it's really easy for me to get to. And so I stop by, pick up a handful of stuff. Steve will eat the pastries, but AJ, he's on a health kick. He never lets me get him anything. He eats healthy. He sits during the breaks. He's over there working out. It's a whole thing. I generally walk in double fisting it. Like pretty much every time I'm here, there's me and there's two beverages. So that's what we have going on.
That's
So
the way to do it.
yes. So I got John Bird the sweetest drink that I'm pretty sure that they make over at Starbucks. I got him a caramel ribbon frappuccino with extra caramel drizzle. And if you haven't tried this, put away your resentment for their politics, because we have to put that to the side, and then go eat this sugary goodness, because I'm pretty sure this is like a week's worth of sugar in a cup. It's
It's
great.
delicious. I love it. It's
It's
great. I
amazing.
can't believe it. Oh, wow.
If I'm really I'll generally do coffee or tea, right? So right now I've got a iced coffee, and then I got a green tea lemonade over here. If I'm really down, that will perk you right up. So there you go. All right. Well, I was telling Steve that I'm just returning from an adventure to Arizona, which was kind of
Wow.
it was our way of kicking off. The timing wasn't coincidental. This is our first year homeschooling all 3 kids.
Wow.
And so when they would have been going back to school, instead we were hanging out in Arizona, seeing the Grand Canyon and the Hoover Dam.
Wow.
And as we were doing the trip, we were reading facts about it. The kids took turns looking up information and kind of giving, an oral book report on it. And we're going to do some things now that we're home in terms of what we learned and having them write about it. And so, yeah, I'm really excited.
Wow, that's cool.
And that's what we plan to do this homeschooling year. Now, they are going to an actual school. They're actually going to Scholay Academy, which is an online. They have these small Zoom-like classes where they do hands-on stuff. So they're still doing a combination of just in front of me book work, but they're getting a classical education, which is something that was so important to me, to have them read actual literature, to have them read it all the way through, do a book report, learn their grammar, learn to write the correct way, emphasize the things that they're not even getting in private schools around here.
Right.
And so that was so important to me. And so we're really excited about that. The boys are going to be taking Latin this year, which I'm really excited about, and as a part of their classical education. And so we started with a trip. We're going from there. Our goal is to, in the time that we are homeschooling, to visit all 50 states.
Wow.
And so we're going to start checking those
You're
off.
a cool teacher.
It's going to be so fun. It's going to be so fun. My own Leland, I'll have to have Jessica help me map out some road trips, but I'm excited. Okay, there's a lot going on in news. And so we are seeing over my shoulder here, if you're looking at Fox News, that Mangione, how do you say his name? Mangione. There you go. Mangione. And I'm going to mess that up the rest of the show. The judge is there. It looks like he's talking to them. And as he was asked if he was capable of making this decision to plead guilty, looks as if he is planning on doing that. Right now, he's looking over documents with his defense attorney. We will keep an eye out for developments in that case. I've got a lot of, for those of you who missed the earlier segment, I've got a lot of local things planned for today, and local state kind of stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about municipal budgets. I know. Those of you who listened to me when I was on the municipal beat, it's not quite over yet. Here in Homewood, $1 million cut to police. Do you hear me? If you live in Homewood, if you work in Homewood, if you have a business in Homewood, you need to get on the horn to your city councilors and be like, what is happening? This is not okay. We're going to talk about that a little later. I've got John Bird over here shaking his head. Yeah, I'm furious. And not only are they cutting, what they did is they defunded the police. Now they're like, no, we didn't. Yes, you did. These positions were funded through the end of the fiscal
What
year.
else is it called?
It's
It's defunded.
This is so funny. The positions were funded until the end of the year, okay, with the fiscal year, and then they told them in March, April, you can't hire them. So basically, 6 months of positions that were funded, they weren't allowed to fill. If that's not defunded, I need to know what is. Can somebody please gift a dictionary to the new city manager of Homewood? All right, we're going to talk about that. The men joining the Daughters of the American Revolution, and all sorts of craziness happening. Oh, the WNBA. We're drafting John Bird.
Yes.
That's what's happening. Sheriff of Blount County, we got Andrew Mclain, if you're wondering what he's doing today. Hint, hint, hint. Back in a minute. Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here. Reminder, we've got the YouTube up, Real Talk 99.5 TV, if you want to go to the YouTube. My hair is doing something a little extra today. I don't know what's happening here. Actually, I do know exactly what's happening here. What's happening here is that my puppy was going a little wild before I came in, and so I half curled my hair. That's what we got going on. All right. We are keeping up with some national headlines as we go about our morning. We are, let's see, looking over here. The judge explains in the Mangione case, he is about to be given the opportunity to speak. He has pled guilty, or is planning on pleading guilty, is what it looks like over here, as the hearing is going on. We'll give you updates on that. Did ask him if he knew what he was doing and making sure he was competent to do so and all of that good stuff. And so we'll keep an eye out with that. I mentioned earlier, and we're going to have on the line here shortly, that the Daughters of the American Revolution, this is probably one of my bigger pet peeves of things going on around the country right now. It is that the men, and those who support them, because they couldn't do this without women, right? And it's so funny because all I have to say is there are women supporting these men in dresses, and you all can get a vivid idea in your head of the type of screeching leftist woman, white woman, who is like, I'm doing this because they're oppressed. No, you're doing this because you're an idiot, because you're a useful fool to these men. These women who are like, oh, just women's rights. I'm a feminist just yesterday. And now they're like, forget women's spaces. Forget a women's organization. This man over here wants to join, and so we're going to let him. No, absolutely not. We'll talk and get into a little bit of what's going on over there in just a minute with a guest. We're keeping an eye out on other breaking news here. I've mentioned it earlier, and to my dear friend who is sending me a text over here, we're going to do an eye for you. Oh, hello, Damien popping his head in. We're saying hello to everybody. You know, I always get these texts and messages when we are talking about local municipal things. It's so easy to get tied up in what's going on, not just in the state, but around the country. It's so easy to get hyper-focused on the fights for the data center, or the fights for data centers around the country, or the fights that are happening in Congress, and the things that get stalled out there. But I really cannot encourage you enough to pay attention what is going on at the local level. You have, in a lot of cities around central Alabama, you've got new mayors in there, and we've got a fantastic crop of new mayors, and they're getting an opportunity to really show their stuff right now. Are they going to be able to pull off the economic development plans that they campaigned on? They come into their first city budgets, are they going to be able to pass those budgets with a sense of accountability and fiscal responsibility? Are they going to be able to do these things that they campaigned on? We're going to watch and see, and Hoover, I keep an eye out over there, because you guys know that's kind of where my municipal beat started. It's wonderful to watch the way that the city council and the mayor interact now. It's wonderful to see, even when they disagree on something, they do so in a way that's still honoring the positions they hold and respectful of the people in the community. I reported on, and really it's a frustrating thing, but I reported on a school that was set to open this week, and they did not realize that they needed to get a zoning change until pretty much last minute. So the school had essentially figured out, well, one of the things we could do, and it was the idea, from what I understand, even came from City of Hoover staff, was maybe if we annex this property into Shelby County, we can start this school on time at the school year. And just this past week at the council meeting, they were like, whoa, slow down. What about the future use of this? Why do I say this? I say this because it's important to watch and pay attention to what's happening. Pay attention to how the people are being treated. Pay attention to what their priorities are. And so I'm watching the case of the school in Hoover to see what happens there. It's a small school. It's got about 40 students. I don't even think that's 40 families. I think some of them are siblings. So very little traffic impact. And I'm praying actually, that the school, they get the ability to get those kids back in a seat where they belong. I was talking earlier about classical education. That's what this school is. It's a classical school. And so we'll talk about more about that a little later. John Bird, do we have our phone lines up yet? No. Okay. We're working on that. So we're working on our guest situation here. But in the meantime, I wanted to, let's see. Oh, okay. We're getting a little bit of details about from the pleading guilty. It looks like Mangione has started talking. He said he knew what he was doing. The quote is, "I knew what I was doing." I don't know that there was ever any doubt of that. I don't know that there's ever been a question about that. But to hear him say it for the family, for those impacted, that's got to mean a lot. So we'll keep an eye out on what's going on there. Earlier, it was mentioned about the death penalty case here in Alabama that happened this week. The individual, what a horrific person. And all of the death penalty groups were pretty much silent on the execution. And it's because you can't, there's some crimes, some people, there's no way to justify that, and that death penalty seems almost too kind. I really would have liked to have the family of the victims, not the mother, because she's just as guilty as sin as he is. And truly, I'm surprised and disappointed that she didn't get the death penalty. But the man who assaulted the 5-year-old girl, sexually assaulted her, videoed her, and then it turns out that he's responsible for probably 2 more deaths, including the death of one of his children in Alaska. But that death that was executed yesterday, and nobody with a straight face can or should be able to say that we should not do this. There is a time, and you'll hear death penalty advocates say, well, thou shalt not kill. No, thou shalt not murder. You should not murder. But people like this, there's no redemption for him. That's between him and Jesus. That's between him and God. There's no place on earth for someone who is this big a monster. This man had a record of this insanity. If you listen to the actual details of the case, and I hadn't heard about it. This is Jeremy Williams, if you're not familiar. He died for the 2021 rape and murder of a 5-year-old who he had purchased time from her mother. Again, it boggles the mind that the mother is going to walk out and see sunlight at some point in her life, because she is just as guilty as this man is. How did we get there so fast? It's because he waived all of his additional trials. He waived his appeals. He waived all of that stuff. I would really like to see more people do that. So many of those we have on death row. They know they're guilty. We have all the evidence in the world to show they're guilty. Their guilt is no longer a question, and yet they are out there exploiting the judicial process to buy themselves more time to stay on death row. Just a couple of years ago, there was a man who was on death row for his part in the killing of a law enforcement officer. I have a very, very low tolerance for anybody who assaults a law enforcement officer, let alone kills a law enforcement officer. And in this case, he had set up the law enforcement officer, and they said, well, he didn't pull the trigger. Well, he might as well have. He was a part of the process in which they lured this officer into the house and then killed him. And death penalty advocates were out there going, no, he didn't pull the trigger. He can't get the death penalty. That's absolutely not how it works. So I went last night and I was searching online for all of the people who are usually out there trying to defend these violent criminals, often repeat violence criminals, and it was pretty quiet. It was crickets on those defending Jeremy Williams, because even those who usually are out there saying, no, we need to save this person, they knew it. They knew that when confronted with the crime itself, when confronted with the details, there was no excuse for this man to continue living. Okay, so on the Mangione sentencing, that has been set for December 18th. I think we heard earlier that there had been no deal set there, no deal cut there when they went into today's hearing. He has pled guilty. He has admitted to knowing what he was doing, and now this is going to be in the sentencing phase. We're going to move on to the sentencing phase of this. So we'll continue to keep an eye out on that. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we may have a daughter from the Daughters of the American Revolution on. You guys hold tight. Well, good morning, everyone. Apryl Marie here, filling in for Andrew. We're not going to say where Andrew is today, but we will point out, I do want to point out that he got all over that Blount County sheriff, who then ended up resigning, and now there's a position that's going to be open where he's not running for reelection. Um, John Bird, I've seen this. Are you preparing yourself to be a deputy?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. As I mentioned, I am one of the issues I've been covering a lot lately over at 1819 News, and it's just important to me as someone who loves this nation, who loves things in our nation that have a storied history to them, that provide a service of helping people become patriotic, helping people understand American history, helping people know about what's going on in their life and families. It's the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I've got Beth on the line. Now, Beth, I'm going to give this disclaimer. I know you don't need to, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. You don't speak for anybody but yourself. You're not representing the
That is
organization
correct.
or the chapter. You've made that clear to me, and I know that that's important to put out there as a stipulation. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your history with the DAR.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today, Apryl Marie. So I have been a 15-year member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I joined as a junior, which has a very special significance for a younger membership. I'm also very involved with the Children of the American Revolution in my area and helping my younger compatriots to have public service and honor flag code and be patriotic in our area, and also help them with genealogy and applications. It's a funneling group to get into the Daughters of the American Revolution, and for the males, the Sons of the American Revolution. Both of my children are involved, and both of my children are also joint members in that society, as well as their society for Daughters of the American Revolution for my daughter and Sons of the American Revolution for my son. So I've served in many different offices in my 15 years with the DAR, and it's a wonderful organization to be a part of.
It's amazing. And for those of you who kind of watch pop culture, within the last, I don't know, because I have a habit of watching shows on repeat, the DAR was featured in Gilmore Girls and in West Wing and all sorts of facets of entertainment in terms of showing how patriotic you are, how cool your headquarters in D.C. is, and the educational side of things.
Actually, the West Wing was filmed there.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Had no idea. There you go. So, yeah, a lot of history to that. Now, the organization is facing, and what I would call, I can probably be a little bit more pointed than you can be here, but what I would call an attack. They're under attack by the woke ideology that says a man can become a woman. And they are now trying to, and some chapters have, accepted men who, air quotes, identify as women into the membership. And you're a part of a group that is trying to stop this and keep
Yes.
Now, tell me a little bit about the group, and then tell me a little bit about why you guys are doing this.
Well, I am part of a group that is called Restoration Daughters, and so we are advocating for the original meaning of what is a daughter, what is a woman. And so what it is just a declaration. It's not anything that is opposed to anything that the DAR is doing, but it's just linking arms together and saying we stand for the original meaning of what a biological daughter is. That's written right on our application. And so our group is just about awareness and working to try to restore the Daughters of the American Revolution to its meaning.
Well, and there's an effort to get the national chapter to have a special called meeting. And we are now, it's funny because I was kind of seeing them roll in up to this week. The state of Alabama now has 12 chapters.
12, yeah.
12 chapters that have voted to call a special meeting so that y'all can go back and in the bylaws make sure that woman is defined.
Yes, we've had great momentum since Continental Congress this summer at the end of June. And so we have awareness, I think, that's happening because of opportunities like this. I appreciate you covering this story and getting the word out. Daughters want the DAR to be preserved, and they want the society to be maintained for women. And so especially Alabama daughters, there is some opposition, but most everybody that I talked to have been very supportive of this movement. And what we're doing is we're linking arms and saying we just want to call a special business meeting. How our bylaws are written is that if we have 30 chapters in at least 10 different states, the President General shall call a special meeting. That word is very important. Now, we have over threefold times have asked for this special meeting, and it's never been called. In fact, this month on the 6th, she put out a documentation that said that she's not going to call a special meeting, that what they did at Continental Congress sufficed. Now, what happened at Continental Congress was not a special meeting. It was a special order of business that was tacked on to a regular business meeting. So that, in our opinion, does not complete that request that is in our bylaws. So I've been very vocal in saying that bylaws are not optional. We really need to follow what our society's governance stance is.
Well, and part of this is that it was leadership that decided that your anti-discrimination language was part of, what allow men to join. It's almost an interpretation issue, and then it was leadership that decided to call the late night meeting, or the special. It wasn't even a meeting, just put the special item on the agenda and pretend that was different. So really, it feels like that the organization hasn't just been hijacked by, the people who believe, a handful of people who believe men can become a woman, but also the leadership who believes they can get away with not following the will of these women.
Yes, and that's very important to maintain that the membership is the one that runs the society. This is a volunteer society of women that are in this collective, and so we want to keep that governance at our local chapter level. And so we are wanting to band together. Our society works only as well as its volunteers.
Yep, and so. And so y'all are asking for this meeting. As you said, as I said, there are about 12 chapters in Alabama. Do you know how many chapters? I feel like I put this in one of my stories, but I don't have it in front of me. How many chapters total there are in Alabama of DAR?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's quite a bit more than that, though.
Okay. So there, and I feel like we're going to see more in Alabama, because it seems, like I said, there seems to be some momentum growing where these different chapters are now taking a vote and saying, we want there to be a special called meeting. We want to address this. We're not going to let, we're not going to let. Right. And it's funny because they brought in an attorney, an LGBTQ specialized attorney who has a documented history of supporting men who identify as women. They brought him in as the legal mind to say the group legally had to do this. And on y'all's side, on the side for protecting the organization, you actually have Hermeet Dillon, who has said, nope, you guys are fine. You can do this lawfully.
That's interesting. At Continental Congress, only one brief was presented, even though there was one from our side as well. That was not allowed to be submitted for that special order meet of business.
Well, one of the things that you guys are saying, and I think this is incredibly important, is hold the line. Y'all are asking women not to delay joining, not to resign their membership, but to stay and fight for the organization. And tell me why that's important to you.
It is important. The DAR does really good work. And so I think we're going to see more and more chapters coming on board with this idea. Most chapters in our nation take kind of a rest break during the summer months and then kind of reconvene for their regular scheduled meetings in September. And so I know that there are several daughters that are going to be kind of back to the main work that they do throughout the calendar for work that for the society. And so I'm really looking forward to that time. We've had later this month, Alabama Daughters are gathering in Mobile. And so there is some luncheons and there's dinners and some time of fellowship planned for us to convene. And then we have Constitution Day coming up in September. In December, we will have Wreaths Across America. So I know there's going to be a great time of fellowship of daughters coming up over the next several months.
I appreciate that. Well, before we head out, and I appreciate your time today, can you tell us where people can go to find more information if they want to support what y'all are trying to do?
Absolutely. So you can look up online or on Facebook. There are the Daughters Advocating for Restoration. Also, daughtersadvocatingforrestoration.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Beth. I appreciate you taking the time to call in, and you have a great day. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. You are listening to Apryl Marie filling in for Andrew. John Bird keeping me out of trouble. Back in just a minute.